Are you looking to run your own security guard training school? Check out guardcardtraining.com. We have state-approved security guard training materials, professionally printed and bound student manuals, PowerPoint presentations, knowledge checks, and final exams. Everything you need to run your own program. Just open the box and start teaching. guardcardtraining.com.
This is Masad Ayub, and you're listening to the Security Professionals Podcast with Alex Haddix.
Welcome to the Security Professionals Podcast, brought to you by Security Training Center, LLC. This is your weekly source of news, tips, and education for the security specialist. I'm your host, Alex Haddix, and this is episode 12, Secondary Defensive Tools. Off the top, I want to apologize for my voice this week. I'm coming off a nasty cold, and my throat is really sore. So this week, I'm going to keep it short and to the point. Many guards like to carry an extra item or two not specifically issued by their employer with them while they're on duty. Some items are perfectly acceptable, like flashlights. However, some of the items that are legal to carry as a normal, average citizen are illegal to carry while you're on duty. If you're caught with these tools and weapons while on duty, you can lose your guard license, face criminal prosecution, and have these items brought up as evidence against you in a civil lawsuit. What makes things more confusing is that every state has different regulations. The rules are set by the state agency that regulates guards for that particular state. I'm going to go through a couple of examples, and I'm going to start with defensive sprays. These are things like chemical mace and OC spray. For example, in California, civilians can carry defensive spray without training. However, to carry spray while as a guard on duty, you must pass a 4-hour course and have on your person a proof of training completion. In Hawaii, you can't carry any defensive spray at all. It is totally against regulation. In Arizona, the state is silent on carrying defensive sprays. They leave it up to the employer as to whether or not it's okay and to set the training requirements. Knives are another popular item to carry. I love knives, and they're incredibly useful and versatile tools. My carry knife is well used and pretty beat up. I use it for any number of household tasks, from opening boxes to removing and even hammering nails. So let's take a look at the regulations for security guards. In California, citizens can carry a folding blade of varying lengths, but usually not more than 4 inches. California is pretty messed up on their knife laws, and it's really, really confusing. There are the state laws, but there are also local county laws that may be more restrictive on blade length than the state laws. And to make things more confusing, if you want to carry a knife while on duty as a guard, it must be a folding blade, and the length of the blade must be less than 2 inches. Again, in Hawaii, you can't carry any knife at all. It's totally against regulation. In Arizona, state regulations are silent on carrying knives, but state law limits folding blades to less than 4 inches. And again, they leave it up to the employer as to whether or not it's okay to carry and set the training requirements. The last item I'm going to touch upon is firearms. This is a much larger subject, and I'm only going to talk about concealed carry permits, or CCWs. There is no state that says a CCW alone is enough to carry a firearm while on duty. None. A citizen CCW does not give you permission to carry a firearm while on duty as a guard. Every state has specific firearms training and approval requirements beyond any CCW permit requirement. You must complete that specific training and be issued an exposed firearms permit to carry while on duty. Period. In some cases, and depending upon the state, having both the exposed firearm permit and CCW will allow you to carry concealed while on duty. However, the exposed firearms permit is always the first and minimum requirement. There are all sorts of other issues that come up when carrying concealed while on duty, so before you do it, check with your employer, get permission, and be certain that you are within the state regulations. If you mess it up and you're carrying concealed when you shouldn't be, and something happens, you're going to be in a whole heap of trouble. We're talking about loss of licensure, criminal prosecution, and possibly civil lawsuits. It's also possible that any professional insurance you or your employer has may be invalidated if you break guard regulations. So you have to ask yourself, is it worth risking all of that? Now, there are all sorts of other defensive tools that a guard might carry while on duty, such as electric shock weapons, like tasers, telescoping batons, side-handle batons, and coup batons that I didn't cover. I can't specifically review every item in every state. The point of this episode is to make everyone aware that there are regulations that exist that you must research before you decide to carry any defensive tool while on duty. Bottom line, just because you can carry it while off duty does not mean it's legal or permissible to carry while you're on duty as a security guard. When you put on that uniform, you switch from being average Joe civilian to being under an entirely different set of state regulations and restrictions.
Well, that will do it for this episode of the Security Professionals Podcast. If you have any tips you'd like to share with everyone, a comment on a show, or if you would like to suggest a topic for an upcoming episode, write into podcast@security-training-center.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 909-742-0649. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe.
Joel Klein catches a 7 o'clock train after his evening CPR class at the American Red Cross.
Ron Garrett's on the same train. He's had a rough day and doesn't feel like himself. Until he feels the sudden tightness in his chest, Ron never thought he'd actually have a heart attack.
Until Joel is administering CPR, he never thought he'd actually save a life.
When you train with the Red Cross, you change a life.
Starting with your own.
Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcross.org to learn about life-changing opportunities in your area.
The Security Professionals Podcast is copyright Security Training Center, LLC. This work is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. An archive of previous episodes can be found at security-training-center.com/podcast.